Hi there, this is Alex at Fungi Tribe. I'm going to show you today how I grow mushrooms from start to finish, and quite a lot of them inside an insulated box. So we go from the underground phase to the fruiting to the overground phase, and we can transition between phases all in one closed space so that you can grow a lot of mushrooms in a small space in your home, and it doesn't have to take over all of your rooms, all of your nooks and crannies. You can do it discreetly too. This is what we're dealing with. So this is a insulation board box, effectively. These insulation boards are about 1 metre square, so I've got 6 of them, and I'll show you what's happening inside. So this is just standard insulation for housing. Obviously there's a little window for modification on here, and I've got a hole here with a carbon filter. So that's making sure there's some airflow inside and that air is clean. So we'll put aside our lid. Now inside, this is fruiting stage, so I've jumped ahead a bit. But when this is in colonisation, this will obviously all be dark. It won't have these hectic lights everywhere. And what else will be different? So it won't have any humidifier at all. So I'll show you what I've got for a very basic humidifier in a minute. So yeah, imagine that. So you've got a much warmer, or a slightly warmer, dark space, and you can do this in your cupboard, in your any closed space or any warm room. But to grow most effectively, to colonise the underground phase most effectively, 26 degrees Celsius is what you're aiming for. So I can dial that in my insulated box, and it'll cost me next to nothing, very small amount of money to keep it at that temperature. And I do keep it at that temperature using this is an Inkbird temperature controller, and I plug in my heating mat or greenhouse heater, and that's what I've got here. I've got a greenhouse heater. These are dead cheap and they have their own thermostats, but I found that it's much better to plug that directly into something that keeps the temperature consistent. Consistency is the thing that I have found to really make a difference. So yeah, getting that right, getting that dialed in early on will help you to get consistent results. Makes sense. Okay, so when you're insulating for the underground phase, once you've injected your bags of grain and they are colonising, or you've then put those bags of grain into substrate, into soil, and they are colonising, that's kind of the main bit, that takes the main amount of time. So for that bit you'll have your door on and you'll have it at 26 degrees Celsius, and that's it. That's all you need, darkness and heat. Now, this is the phase that I've just transitioned into, because I don't have a massive house, so I don't want to have 2 chambers on the go, but we do need to change the environment so that we can go to the next phase. So all of these tubs and all of these containers have now got to the stage where they're ready to be put into fruiting. So I've dropped the temperature in here to 23 degrees Celsius, that's an optimum temperature for fruiting, and I've introduced these lights. They're hectic. I haven't pinned them up yet. They tape up easily around the inside of here. The lights are on a 12-hour on-off timer, and lights are a pinning trigger for mushrooms. There's some controversy about what lights are actually for with mushrooms, because they don't get their energy from light, but they are important. They're also important for the mushrooms to know what direction to grow and to get their pigment, get their colour from as well. So we've got lights, we've got a slightly lower temperature, 23 degrees Celsius, so that's from the heating mat. We've also got one other thing in here, and you can't quite see it. I'll show you, hang on, I'll show you this. Okay, this here is a bathroom fan, and it's set facing out, so this is pulling air out of this chamber, and that's set on, I put that on to just come on every couple of hours for a few minutes, and that helps to
pulls fresh air through the chamber, and I can use that at both stages, but especially at fruiting stage it's the most important.
Now let's talk humidity. Now this is about the lowest tech humidifier that you can get. I'm not going to humidify this space like I would a proper fruiting chamber that was fully automated. So to start with, yeah, imagine that. You've got a fully automated space like a grow tent or what's called a Martha tent, and you can check out my courses for more on how to make those if you want to make a fully automated area space. This is a much easier way to do it in terms of not having loads of stuff to clean and not taking up loads of space, but it does mean that I have to do a bit more in the meantime to keep stuff going. To remember that mushrooms want to be humidified to above 90% humidity, but all of these containers are closed containers, so I can still alter the space within these containers, and that's what I do. So I do that by wafting and spraying inside the tubs, which many of you will be familiar with. If you're not, you're literally taking things out and giving them a waft with the lid to move the old carbon dioxide and bring in new fresh oxygen for the mushrooms to grow. Mushrooms need oxygen to grow. And you're also spraying around the tub, around the inside of the tub, the growing container, to introduce more humidity as well. In the ambient space, for ambient humidity, I've got this tub of sponges. These are just normal kitchen sponges floating around in there, and the idea is that the sponges wick water out into the environment, so there's a bit more ambient humidity in the environment as well. It's not going to be anywhere near what mushrooms would need if they were out of their containers, but they're not. So this is a good midway point to be aiming for. So what my days look like when I'm in fruiting stage is that I'm opening this up a couple of times a day just to give things a waft and a spray, and then for the rest of the time I'm leaving it. It's fully automated. The heat is automated on 23 degrees Celsius, the lights are automated on 12-hour timers, and the fan is automated to come on for a couple of hours for a few minutes every few hours. And that's it. And then you just keep waiting until your mushrooms are ready. I would say as well that you can just leave stuff in here. There are techniques, mushroom growing techniques, where you don't have to do any of that stuff, any of the wafting and spraying. I have done that using this method in closed containers, in bags, and just harvested when the mushrooms are ready. They're not necessarily as beautiful as the mushrooms that you would get if you were really, really deeply caring for them, but you still get a good crop. So you can use, this is an efficient way to grow if you're in small spaces and you don't want to be cleaning loads of kit regularly. So yeah, let me know in the chat if you've got any comments, and if you'd like to get hold of my free healing grow guide, then stick a mushroom emoji in the comments too, and I'll send you a link to that. I've got lots of courses on growing mushrooms on my website at fungitribe.com. Do check them out. In the meantime, do hit subscribe. I'll be bringing out more videos very soon about growing mushrooms at home and things to make your life a lot easier with your growth. So stay tuned and I'll see you soon.